Perfect. I'd like to call to order this January 14th, 2021 Trotwood-Madison Board of Education special meeting, which is being live streamed via YouTube in accordance with COVID-19 recommendations at 5:30 p.m. This meeting is a meeting of the Board of Education in public for the purpose of conducting the school district's business and is not to be considered a public community meeting. Ms. Allen, will you please call the roll?
Yes. Mrs. Jeter Freeman?
Yes.
Ms. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Scarce?
Yes.
And Mrs. Bozeman?
Yes, thank you. Mr. Vice President, will you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Certainly. I pledge allegiance to the flag, the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I need a motion to adopt the agenda as printed.
I'll move.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
I'll second.
It's been properly moved and seconded. Do we have any questions about the one item that we're bringing back from the retreat to discuss this evening? Hearing none, Ms. Allen, will you please call the roll?
Yes. Ms. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Scarce?
Yes.
Mrs. Jeter Freeman?
Yes.
And Mrs. Bozeman?
Yes, thank you. Moving on to Dr. Cosby, the return to in-person learning plan.
Okay, thank you. Eric, would you please put up that PowerPoint for me? It's very short and sweet. All right, Trotwood-Madison Reentry Plan. Please move to the next screen. This plan was developed with input from our families, our staff, administration, and board members. Next slide, please. This is the plan. Our plan is our students will be all remote or all in person. They have the choice between the two. January 19th, we will have our pre-K through 12 students who have disabilities that require therapy to be contacted by their therapist to begin in person. All other students will remain remote. On February 15th, our pre-K through 5 students will return to school Monday through Thursday, unless they choose to remain remote. And on March 1st, grades 6 through 12 will return to school Monday through Thursday, and all staff members will return to their buildings on February 15th. Next slide, please. This decision was data-driven. We surveyed our families, received 430 responses. We had a very close to 50-50. Remaining remote, we had 53% of our respondents. The number one reason was COVID-related health issues, and their second reason was a family member or caregiver who would be at risk. Those wanting to return to in-person learning, 47%, their number one reason was their concern for the education and socialization of their child. And for the second reason, it was difficulties with keeping up with the learning at home. We also surveyed our staff to see who was interested in getting the vaccine, which would be available for us. Initially, they came out and said February 1st. That date has moved to February 6th as of now. But we had 265 staff members who said that they would like to take that vaccine. So this is the decision that we've made. If there are any questions, I am willing to entertain them.
Or do you have any comments for Dr. Cosby?
Yeah, I do. Dr. Cosby, did you say Monday through Thursday?
Yes.
Okay. Why are we not a 5-day-a-week school district?
Our teachers are still going to be doing remote, and they're going to be doing students who are in their classrooms. And as I said, at this point, it appears to be 50-50. They use that Friday for collaboration, for planning. We did decide that we would not do the hour off, which we have been doing prior to now. Our staff has had some time to get themselves acclimated. And so this is a major change for them. And so I think that is why we're doing the Friday. We're leaving that time for planning, collaboration, PD, for them to have time to do this 2-part learning system.
Yeah. I see that problematic for families. And honestly, they have done 5 days a week forever, other than the last 10, 11 months. I mean, that's been the norm. Even in our negotiated agreement, I mean, we are a 5-day-a-week school. I'm sorry. I think that maybe we should consider the hour that you were giving them, or an hour and a half, or whatever, because 4-day-a-week school is still not consistent with what we do for teaching and learning. So I'm just trying to understand why that is the case.
Okay, so let me explain it a little clearer. We are still continuing to work on Fridays. Students will have work as they have for the last 10 months on Fridays, and the staff is still coming in and they're still doing work. So that's a difference. And, you know, that again is something that we are stepping into. What hasn't changed out there in our community is this virus. It's changed and gotten worse. It's not gotten better. So I just feel like your concern about the community responded to us that they are okay being remote for the most part. We had 9 people, literally 9 respondents, who said that childcare was an issue for them. So people responded that, why are you moving so fast on this? Why the change? A lot of people who wanted to stay said, my child is doing well at home. I think that when you don't give any, concession to our staff and to our families, that we're acting as if we don't know that we have this looming pandemic out there going on. So I think that Friday, for them to be able to collaborate, to work together, to prepare for the next week, to get those remote kids the information they need, and to continue to work with those kids in the buildings, I think that's really, really good. And prior to this, remember, we have been giving them the hour and the Friday to plan.
Yeah, and prior to all of this, we were a 5-day-a-week school district. So prior to COVID, years and years, this is the first year of a pandemic. And that's what I'm saying. And I know other districts are 5-day-a-week, and I mean, they are, and some schools never stopped. They never stopped. We did.
When we started with the pandemic, and we made the decision to go remote. Mm-hmm. And we said, we are Trotwood. We do what's best for our community. We don't have to do what other districts are doing. But I can tell you for sure, I don't know who you communicate with. Of course, I don't know that, but I know that I communicate with these 16 other districts in Montgomery County, and they are not all back. They are not all going back all day. Some of them are half days. They're doing different things. So we're not the only person on a different schedule. And I can tell you that I literally just heard a message that Hamilton County went purple, and they've canceled all of their sporting events, and they just put everybody on a 2-week hiatus to see what happens. Mm-hmm. So this is a moment to moment thing. It's not like it was before this pandemic hit. I know, and I've heard you say, and I get it, that we're going to have to learn to live with it, but to learn to live with it,
Yeah,
and
safely. We've always said that. And I say that because, this is just Denise Moore, okay? I am not speaking on behalf of the board in any way, all right? They're going to be coming 4 days a week, correct?
Correct.
Monday through Thursday.
Correct.
This Friday, and traditionally, we've always come 5 days a week. And so traditionally, they've had planning periods, correct?
Yes.
They've had but the difference is now they're doing the virtual as well as the in person. So they need more time. Is that what you're trying to say? That, they need more time on Fridays to prepare the two different sets of
I think
teaching and learning?
that is what I said. That is
Okay.
what I said. They need to
Okay. I'm just trying to get clarification because I think that's important.
I'm going to call on Lisa Minor. Miss Minor, maybe she has some clarification because she had her hand up for a while and she might know a little something else to add to that.
Thank you, President Bozeman. I just wanted to share, and I think Board Member Moore just mentioned it. The reason we really need Fridays, and when we went through training with the national trainer who works with districts on virtual learning, and they were experts before COVID hit. And we asked them, what will the teachers need? What do we need to do as a district? How can we make this work? He said, the one thing districts make a mistake on is not giving teachers enough time to plan. He said, if you expect it to be quality instruction, and we know for a fact it's not perfect yet, they have to have time to collaborate. We've done surveys with staff. We did a lot of professional development and time to meet and collaborate. And as you all know, we did a staff survey about how is your virtual learning working. Many teachers responded, oh, it's a lifesaver having Friday to really work with the team. You're right, they do have planning time during the week, but it's not enough. Honestly, for quality instruction, it probably wasn't enough before COVID, but now especially, it's almost like doing multiple assignments. So I've got my face-to-face kids with interventions. I've got my online kids with interventions. One suggestion, I like what you said about maybe the hour release time might help instead of the Friday off. And we had talked about that too. And what happens is during that hour, when we thought that the teachers were able to plan, they were manning dismissal. Now, why does dismissal need more time? Because we have to do the spacing and all of that with the little ones especially. So where we thought we were giving them extra time to actually work with kids, they were spending a majority of time over the operational dismissal part of the work. And so that's when the teacher said, let's keep the kids longer. We don't need an early release. Let's teach longer through the week and then have Friday. So that's where, just an explanation.
Mm-hmm. I appreciate that explanation. Thank you, Ms. Minor. That makes sense.
Could you
Go ahead.
could you give me an example of exactly what they'll be doing on Friday? What will they be planning?
They will be planning literally the lessons, and all our families have access to the landing pages. So I'm not only planning the traditional lessons, and we're trying not to do traditional, but 21st century learning. I'm working with my team, collaborating, because we know coming together, they're going to provide, as they work collectively, the lessons will become richer and more meaningful for the students. They are going over data from formative assessments that they're having to do and analyzing that work and determining how am I going to change my instruction for next week. They're sampling some of the online tools with each other, practicing their Zoom teaching methods, as well as going through professional learning webinars and things like that. So their day is packed.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Ms. Moore, you had a comment?
Mm-hmm. And Dr. Cosby, they are in the district on Fridays, correct?
They being the teachers?
Yes.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
I would like to add and again, this is just Ms. Bozeman speaking. We are living through a pandemic, and I do want us to think about that. I think that a pandemic, okay, and we are living through it and we're working through it, and we are coming back to school, and we are figuring out how to do that in the safest way possible for ourselves and for our students. But nonetheless, it is a pandemic. and it has not gotten any better. The numbers have not gone down, but we're pushing forward and we are coming back. We have a plan for coming back. And so I just want us not to lose sight of that, board. This is a pandemic. This is a pandemic, and we are moving forward. And we are Trotwood, and we talked about it at the beginning, how we do things that is best for our community. We did a survey. We heard from our parents. We see what our parents want, what they would like for us to do. They trust us. And so we are doing what's best for our community, not what is best for other communities. Ms. Judah Freeman, you have your hand up.
I do. And I wanted to say the Friday time for the teachers to actually, I've watched a district in DC where my daughter teaches. On Wednesday is their collaboration day. I got to listen to her team of English teachers in that group and then math teachers discuss each student and what that learning. They're actually looking at the test. So how many students got this assessment, which ones were wrong? And they were actually looking at the data and calibrating, even with the grading. There was a discussion on participation. So I hope that, and I'm sure that our teachers would be engaged in that same type of dialogue. So I think to have those teachers have that day for intentional looking at, we talk about the pyramid of students. And, I always say, if we look at the data to see where they are and correct quickly, not wait to the last of the quarter to correct. But if we're correcting quickly, and at this point, we have to also understand that, going virtual, being online is probably no fault of of teachers or parents or students. So we have to take that off of everyone. But we do have to step up. And we have to provide those teachers, we have to provide the families and the students what it is they need. And we, Trotwood, we have every support imaginable to provide that to our students, to make sure that if there's a family, and I think I said this at the last board meeting, so I'll say it again, if there are a family that needs additional support for childcare or whatever it is, that we're making sure they're taken care of, especially in those early grades. And we can perfect this. It's an opportunity for us to have all of our staff proficient in, if we have to remain remote, because there are different strands of the virus coming out. So if for some reason it really did get worse, let's make sure we're good at it. The other thing we need to, as a board and board members, we need to be advocating with the state that this is a no test year. I know the state support team is still out there looking, but we have a responsibility too during this pandemic. And I think that for us is to make sure that we're equitable, reviewed in comparison to those schools that could afford to go back online full time, or they had whatever the case was. So we need to make sure we put that on our tracker and have a discussion about when do we talk to them, how do we communicate that, but we do have to do that.
Thank you. Mr. Scarce, you had your hand up?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you very much. I think from the very beginning, and my statement is just to solidify my point. I think from the very beginning, I've always advocated for being able to offer any available option to families as a district. And I do recognize that we are in a pandemic, and we have asked a lot of our staff, not just our teachers, but really everybody. So I'm definitely okay with this plan. I hope it also affords us the opportunity to have the ability to pivot back to virtual learning in the event that we have to. Hopefully we won't. And I agree with Miss Freeman that we do need to be, caucusing to some degree our legislators, fellow school board members at the state about making this a no test year. But I will say this, the governor, I'm fortunate enough to be in a meeting with him on the 20th, and he's provided districts in Ohio the opportunity to make the decision for themselves about returning before it isn't our decision anymore. I just kind of want us to keep that in mind, but I'm okay with this particular plan. I'm glad to know that we are serving those families that need their children to be in school. So thank you very much. I appreciate it.
I think, Dr. Cosby, you had your hand up. Do you have a comment?
Yes, I just wanted to say, and I think it was a big coincidence, but I ended up speaking with one of the high school teachers today, and we talked about Friday, and she said it was a blessing for them. And she said exactly what you said, Ms. Jeter Freeman. She said, we get the opportunity to work together and collaborate on what our students have learned and what we need to work on for the week. And we look at their test scores and we get the opportunity to respond to them. She said everything that you just said, like she might have been sitting in your daughter's classroom working with her. That happened just this afternoon around 4:30 today. It was a coincidental meeting, or talking opportunity to talk. So that is the kind of work exactly that they'll be doing on Friday, just what you mentioned. There are a lot of comments. If you're interested, I know Lisa has those and she could read a few, but we don't have to do that. That's entirely up to you.
I don't know that we need those to be read, but you can just, if the board members want them, they can be made available. That will be fine. Okay. I would say,
email them to me.
I would like to refer back to what we talked about earlier in the year when this first happened. We talked about how education really hasn't changed in I don't know how many years, many hundreds of years, right? And this pandemic has forced us to change. And so since it has changed, we can't continue to look at things the same way, right? So we have to be willing to look at things differently, take different approaches to move forward because things have changed and they just aren't the same. And so I'm glad that we have a plan that is, I think, flexible. I think it looks at our students. I think it takes our community to account, and it still allows, for that traditional learning that some of our students and parents need and want quickly, and we're going to still make that happen for them. So I appreciate the work that you did. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Anything else?
One last, just a comment. We had our CTC board meeting on Tuesday, and Dr. Weldy, in his count of staff, included the board members. So I would just share that. I don't know that we did that. And I don't even know if board members want a vaccine, but I was just sharing that.
He mentioned that today in our meeting when they announced that board members were not included in the education one, unless you do mentor a student, unless you are face-to-face with a student. But in general, they had not included board members, but he did mention it, and he actually said, and I'm not telling him no now that I've said yes. And I don't blame him. He said he wanted to keep his job.
So you said February 6th, Dr. Cosby, for the...
That is what they said today. It could change. I hope that is February 6th, if not maybe sooner, because the safety aspect of that for our staff is that my understanding is they take the vaccination, they're a lot less likely to get as ill and potentially then not die. So that is what we can offer them. And I am excited that we're going to at least start late enough that they'll get a chance to at least get one shot for those who want it.
Okay.
But I'll keep you posted.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Scares?
Yes, ma'am. I just want to make sure we're voting on this plan, correct?
There is on the agenda. It does. It is for action. So I will entertain a motion at this time.
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
It's been properly moved and seconded. Do we have any other discussion about the return to in-person learning plan? Hearing none, Ms. Allen, will you please call the roll?
Yes, Mr. Scares,
Yes.
Ms. Moore,
Yes.
Mrs. Judah Freeman,
I'm going to abstain because I think this falls under operations and not for the board to vote on.
and Mrs. Bozeman.
Yes, the motion does carry. So we do support the return to in-person learning plan. At this time, I would like to entertain a motion for adjournment.
I'll move.
So moved. I'll second.
It's been properly moved and seconded. Nothing to talk about with that, I'm guessing. Hearing nothing, Ms. Allen, will you please call the roll?
Yes, Ms. Moore,
Yes.
Mr. Scares,
Yes.
Mrs. Judah Freeman,
Yes.
and Mrs. Bozeman.
Yes, thank you. The motion carries. We will now adjourn the meeting. Thank you for your time and thank you for all your hard work.
Thank you.